What if the reason you keep quitting has nothing to do with motivation? You've watched the videos, you've read the quotes, you've told yourself, tomorrow I start, and tomorrow comes, and you don't. That's not a motivation problem. Motivation was never going to save you. What you're missing isn't a pep talk, it's a set of laws. Rules so rigid, so unemotional, that they don't care how you feel today. The Stoics didn't build empires of the mind on inspiration. Marcus Aurelius didn't rule Rome by feeling ready. He ruled by law, laws he wrote to himself, alone, at night, when no one was watching and no one would ever read them. Today you're going to take 8 of those laws, not tips, not hacks, laws. If you apply even 3 of these with total honesty, your relationship with discipline changes permanently. So don't watch this one passively. Watch it like a man rebuilding the foundation of his own mind, because that's exactly what this is. Let's begin. Marcus Aurelius kept telling himself the same thing over and over in his private journal. Get up and do the work of a human being. Not get up when you feel like it. Not get up once you're inspired. Get up because that is simply what you exist to do. Here is the truth nobody wants to hear. Feeling ready is not a prerequisite for discipline. It's a myth sold to you by a culture addicted to comfort. The undisciplined man waits for the feeling. The disciplined man moves regardless of the feeling and lets the feeling catch up later, if it ever does. Think about the last time you actually followed through on something hard. Were you excited in the moment? Or did you just start anyway, half reluctant, and the momentum built after? That's the law. Discipline is not the absence of resistance. It's action in spite of it. Notice something else about that moment. The resistance never actually stopped while you were doing the hard thing. It didn't vanish and then let you begin. You began, and it simply lost its grip on you one step at a time. That's what nobody tells you about readiness. It's not a gate you walk through before starting. It's a byproduct you earn only after you've already moved. Epictetus taught that the first step to freedom is learning to distinguish what's in your control from what isn't. But people forget the second half of that teaching. Once you know what's in your control, you are fully responsible for it. No exceptions, no excuses. Every small thing you tolerate in yourself is a vote for who you become. Skip the workout, that's a vote. Snap at someone you love, that's a vote. Scroll for 2 hours instead of building your future, that's a vote. You are not one big decision away from becoming disciplined. You are 1,000 small tolerations away from becoming exactly what you keep allowing. Ask yourself, honestly, what have you been tolerating in yourself for months? Telling yourself it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It's the deciding vote. This is uncomfortable to sit with because it removes every excuse you've been quietly leaning on. You can't blame the circumstances forever. You can't blame the schedule, the mood, the bad week. Epictetus would say none of that was ever truly outside your control in the first place. Your response to it always was. And your response, repeated enough times, becomes your character. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea constantly in his private writings, not because it was complicated, but because he knew how easily the mind forgets it under pressure. Every time you catch yourself minimizing a lapse, remember that minimizing is exactly how tolerations become identity. Nobody becomes undisciplined in one dramatic moment. It happens quietly, one shrugged-off compromise at a time. The Stoics were relentless about the connection between physical discipline and mental clarity. Marcus Aurelius spoke of the mind as something that colors and shapes itself according to the thoughts it constantly holds, and the body works the same way. It becomes the shape of your habits. Your body is not just something you live in. It's evidence, a daily, visible verdict on whether you are a person of your word or not. Every skipped workout is a small piece of testimony against you. Every plate of food you know you shouldn't eat is testimony. Every night you stay up destroying your sleep for meaningless content is testimony. You don't need anyone to tell you whether you're disciplined. Look at your body. It's already told you the truth. This isn't about vanity, and it was never about how you look in a mirror. It's about the fact that the body cannot lie the way words can. You can tell yourself a story about who you are, hard-working, committed, serious about your goals, but your body doesn't listen to stories. It only responds to what you actually do, day after day, whether anyone is watching or not. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, urged a kind of voluntary hardship, deliberately practicing discomfort, so that when real hardship arrived, it found nothing new to frighten you. Modern life has taught you the opposite. It's taught you that discomfort is a signal to stop. Cold? Turn up the heat. Bored? Grab your phone. Tired? Quit early. But discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is data. It's simply the sensation of your limits being tested, and limits, unlike walls, move when you push against them. The disciplined mind has learned to read discomfort correctly. Not as something is wrong, but as something is changing. That single reframe is the difference between a man who folds at the first sign of difficulty and a man who's impossible to stop. The people you admire most, the ones who seem unshakable under pressure, aren't unshakable because they feel less discomfort than you do. They feel it just as sharply. The difference is they've trained themselves not to flinch away from it the moment it shows up. They've made peace with the fact that growth and discomfort arrive in the same package every single time, without exception. Seneca practiced this literally, wearing rough clothing, eating simple food, sleeping without comfort, on purpose, so wealth and ease could never quietly own him. You don't need to recreate his exact exercises. You only need to understand the principle underneath them. Comfort you haven't chosen controls you, while comfort you can walk away from never will. Here's a quiet truth. Most people are more afraid of breaking a promise to a stranger than to themselves. You'll show up on time for a coworker. You'll finish a favor for a friend. But the promise you made to yourself at 6 a.m., gone by 6:15. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that his worth wasn't determined by what others thought of him, but by whether his own actions matched his own judgments. In other words, discipline is just the practice of keeping your word to the one person who's watching every single time. You. Every broken promise to yourself teaches your own mind that your word means nothing. And once your mind learns that lesson, it stops believing you, even when you're finally serious. Think about what that actually costs you over time. A mind that doesn't trust its own word becomes a mind that hesitates at every decision, because some part of you already knows you'll probably talk yourself out of it anyway. Rebuilding that trust doesn't happen with one grand gesture. It happens with small, boring, unremarkable promises kept exactly as stated, over and over, until your word means something again. It's easy to build discipline when everyone's watching. The gym is busy, your friends are grinding, the whole world seems locked in. It's a different thing entirely when no one is watching, no one would know, and nothing bad would happen if you just didn't. That's the real test. Epictetus taught that a person's character is revealed not in comfort, but in how they act when they believe no one can see them. Borrowed standards collapse the moment the audience disappears. Only a standard that comes from within survives silence, isolation, and boredom. The three conditions where most people's discipline quietly dies. Ask yourself where your discipline actually comes from right now. Is it borrowed from a gym partner, a deadline, a fear of being judged? Or is it yours, something you'd carry into a locked room with no witnesses and no consequences? Most people never find out the answer, because they never put themselves in a position to test it. The Stoics tested themselves constantly, on purpose, precisely so they'd never have to wonder. This is why the Stoics valued solitude so highly, not as an escape from the world, but as a proving ground. A man who is the same person alone, in a quiet room, as he is in front of a crowd, has nothing left to prove to anyone, including himself. That kind of consistency cannot be faked, and it cannot be borrowed. It has to be built privately, one unwitnessed choice at a time. There are two versions of you constantly in conversation. One wants growth, mastery, a life you'd respect. The other wants comfort, ease, and to be let off the hook. Right now, just this once. The undisciplined man treats this as a negotiation. He listens to the excuses. He debates with the weaker voice as if it deserves a vote. The Stoics were clear that reason exists precisely to govern the lower impulses, not to argue with them as equals, but to rule them. Marcus Aurelius didn't debate his own laziness. He simply overruled it and moved. You are not required to negotiate with the part of you that wants to quit. You are required to lead it. Leadership, in this sense, doesn't mean silencing that weaker voice with anger or shame. It means treating it the way a calm commander treats a nervous soldier, acknowledging it exists, and then moving forward anyway, because the mission doesn't pause for feelings. The moment you stop treating your own excuses as debates worth having, they lose almost all of their power over you. Every time you win this internal argument without even finishing it, you make the next one easier. The weaker voice gets a little quieter each time it loses. Give it a platform, and it grows louder and more convincing. Deny it the argument entirely, and eventually it stops showing up to fight at all. This is the law almost everyone gets backwards. People treat discipline like a punishment they're inflicting on themselves. A grim, joyless grind they're enduring until eventually they burn out and quit. But that was never the Stoic view. Marcus Aurelius wrote about living in accordance with your own nature and reason, not fighting yourself, but finally aligning with the version of yourself capable of the most. Discipline, correctly understood, isn't self-punishment. It's self-respect in action. You don't train because you hate your body. You train because you respect what it's capable of. You don't focus because you hate distraction. You focus because you respect your own time too much to waste it. The moment discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like respect, it stops requiring willpower at all. It just becomes who you are. This is the quiet secret behind everyone who seems to have discipline without effort. It was never that they had more willpower than you. It's that they crossed a threshold where the identity took over, where showing up simply became what a person like them does, the same way brushing your teeth requires no motivation because it's no longer a decision. It's just who you are. That's the real target of these 8 laws. Not a version of you that grinds harder out of guilt, but a version of you that no longer needs to grind at all, because respect has quietly replaced resistance as the engine behind everything you do. 8 laws. None of them require motivation. None of them ask how you feel today. They only ask one thing: will you act in accordance with them or not? Marcus Aurelius wasn't born unshakable. He built it, law by law, night after night, alone with a journal no one else was ever meant to read. You have the same tools he had: a mind, a choice, and right now, today, a chance to apply even one of these 8 laws before this day ends. Don't wait until you feel ready. You already know that's Law 1. If this hit something in you, that means it was meant for you. Drop the law that hit hardest in the comments below. Subscribe for more unfiltered Stoic training for the mind every single week. Now close this video and go prove it.